Thank you for watching Conscious Consumer Network. The live stream broadcast is free to view. You can pause and rewind live broadcasts to catch up, or view shows at a later date by accessing our free archives of all shows. Check out our broadcast guide to see what's on. You can show your support by donating to our network support fund. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or subscribe to the monthly newsletter for updates. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
We're in New York as the land of the free chooses its destiny. There's never been a US presidential campaign quite like it. All eyes in Florida at the moment. For both sides, there is still all to play for. Mr. Trump is ahead by 1%, 49 to 48.
Now this is starting to look like a much better night for Donald Trump and his campaign team than any of the pollsters had predicted.
He's doing very well.
It is a real nail-biter.
I just want to go over to the Trump headquarters because Mr. Trump hasn't just won Ohio, he's won it big time. And in modern times, the way Ohio goes has been the way the country has gone.
North Carolina has in the last few seconds just been called for Donald Trump on 51% share of the vote.
Funereal, disappointed, dismayed, disbelieving. Some people have already started to drift away into the New York night.
If she loses Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, which is a real possibility now, then she loses the White House.
In the last few seconds, they have just called Florida for Donald Trump. That is why it matters. 29 electoral college votes.
This is turning out to be the most remarkable political night in modern history. The eyes of the world on the results of the American election.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business. Complicated. I've just received a call from Secretary Clinton to all Republicans and Democrats and independents across this nation. I say it is time for us to come together as one united people.
Hi, I'm Marley, and yep.
I'm Martin.
And I'm Neil, and this is Youths on Subjects of the World. And today we're going to be talking about the U.S. presidential election. So, where do we want to start this discussion? Any suggestions? No? Okay. How about we start at where President Trump started running for the election, maybe not at the very beginning, but a time during where the election was happening. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Maybe the controversy that happened. All right, go ahead.
How everyone thought it was going to be a joke candidate and nothing was ever going to come of it. Yeah, that was fun. Those were good days.
I think that was definitely extremely interesting. I'm sure everybody that was laughing then is it's definitely very interesting. So what's everyone's thoughts on how the the controversy that happened during the election. I'm sure we're all familiar with that.
Well, first off, I think it is, about how everybody thought it was a joke. I was really surprised at the amount of people that thought he wasn't going to win, and the amount of people that were like, this is not what America stands for. It was pretty much a patriot run. It's like a wake-up call to all the, yes, America, America type people. And I think that was one of the reasons that it was so controversial, is because people couldn't believe it. They were like, how could someone like this, someone that says all these politically incorrect things, someone that's so brash and straightforward and arrogant and snobby, how could they, even get to that point where they can run for president? And I laughed when people thought it wasn't going to happen. I knew it was. It had to some way.
I would always make jokes like, yeah, we're all laughing now, but imagine how funny we'll be in like a year from now when he's president. Like, I never really thought it wasn't going to happen, but I was always like, yeah, that never could really happen, right? Like, so many people, like, I've seen more people that hate him than people that like him, so it seems so strange that he would become the president.
Yeah, well, technically he didn't win a majority. Hillary won the popular vote. But I think we should address the arguments that some people make, whereas maybe we can address the, hashtag not my president later. But I think one of the main things is where people have and I want to say the legitimate argument where, since he said all those things that were basically sexual harassment, that should he really be president? Should this man be in the highest office this country allows? Is that something that should happen? On one hand, he reached electoral victory. On the other hand, is that even should we even let that happen? Because if a person did that, some other person, they might end up in jail. You can't sexually harass somebody. So does anybody have any comments on that? Again, on one hand, people did vote for him. On the other hand, should we allow somebody to be in here? Martin?
Straightforward? No. But it's a lot more complicated than that, because there's a lot of allegations, and I'm not sure. I know that some of them have been confirmed, but there's a lot of them, so it's hard to straighten it out. And he wasn't, it would seem kind of fishy if they pressed charges against him, though, because he wasn't the only person running for president who has done some very fishy things before. And if they press charges for one, they have to press charges for the other, and then every single candidate has to go to jail. So that becomes kind of a problem, because now there's no president, and people don't usually like that.
That is a really good point. I never thought of it that way. In terms of the idea of a president that has allegations of sexual harassment under his belt, I mean, the history of scandals and the like, how presidents work, how just being rich works, right? Everybody pays attention to everything you do. But it's definitely a shocker. But at the same time, it's not, because you're not surprised on a part, like how Neil said, he's that type of person. Everybody knows him as the straightforward one. And, oh, he did this. Okay. But on the other hand, it's like, no, there's no way that the Electoral College or the votes would, allow such a thing. So that was one of the main reasons I was shocked when he did become president, but at the same time, I wasn't. So, yeah.
So, I think one of the other points that people would counter, the point that I just made, would be that, but what he did in the past, while it may have been bad, it may not have been bad, it may have been terrible, we have to think to the future, and we have to do, even though putting a despicable person in office, again, this is what some people would argue, would be forgivable, because the alternative is most certainly not preferable. because as you know, as I'm sure you probably know, Hillary wanted to have a no-fly zone over Syria, which definitely would have caused some big problems with Russia. And I remember when she was, I remember I was reading this article, and it was talking about one of the debates, and it said that when she was asked, what do you plan to do if somebody violates this no-fly zone, she just completely dodged the question. And she seems to have this very firm belief that a no-fly zone would be a good solution, even though I think we can imagine the repercussions of that. So what are your thoughts on that? I'm not exactly saying that, hey, do you guys think that which one is better now? Decide right now, right here. I'm saying that, do you think that that is definitely a legitimate argument or no?
Well, I think that no matter how you discuss it, there's no way to decide who's a legitimate, like, everything is a good argument because both of them have done and said some pretty despicable things in their lifetime, and so have most presidential candidates. But not a lot of people have seen that before. But nowadays we have things like the internet, and it's impossible for anyone who's known at all to do anything. Like, they could sneeze and it would be in 17 different news formats. Like, there's no way that anyone can do anything, especially something illegal or very questionable, without it being fixated on. So it's hard to talk about because sometimes you can see like you're defending a candidate, but then you will go and attack them at the same time, and people will get kind of confused by that. So that's why I don't particularly like political conversations.
I completely agree with that. I get the whole that was one of the things that I have a lot of family members who are voting. I pretty much kind of dropped out of the voting thing after I learned that democracy wasn't really a democracy. So when it comes to choosing the lesser of two evils, it feels like either way it's going to go really badly. So the kind of the neutrality of that decision to be like, well, both are bad. A lot of people take it as oh, so you're going to vote for Trump. Oh, so you're going to vote for Hillary, instead of just, I'm just not going to do anything, because it's not like, it's not like America's suddenly going to have a giant positive turnaround if Hillary's president. And though we all know Donald Trump is going to do some damage, it's not going to be, like overnight. It's like, oh, look, everything just changed forever. So, yeah.
So yeah, I think from what I heard, I think we can all agree that both of them have said very questionable things. But I think what we need to focus on now is that well, I guess Trump is president now, so we're going to find out very soon what would happen if he became president. But it really is what happens in the end. So many people, Trump supporters, argue that what Trump did obviously was despicable, but what Hillary is saying and doing is going to affect the nation in the future. What Trump did, again, horrible, is in the past, and it's not really going to cause World War III. So what do we think about that? Because I think personally that argument definitely is very, very valid. But again, what could Trump do something damaging as well? Which one would be worse, or is there one that is preferable?
I was all for that argument. I used that argument in conversations with a lot of different people, and I have been for that argument, and I still am a little bit for that argument up until recently, when some of the things that he's said and some of the things that he's done and signed. And I think it's very hard, because it's hard to come to terms with the fact that there's no really right answer. Like, even if it is the lesser of two evils, it's still an evil, and there's still bad things that can come of either way. But I just wish that we could have figured out a different way, because I'm not sure if this is true, but I read an article that said most of the people that voted for Trump were just voting for Donald Trump because he didn't want to vote for Hillary and vice versa. So it's like, how many people really wanted either of them to get into office?
Yeah. That whole idea of, well, you got to choose one. I'm like, no, I don't. Definitely the onset of the World War III, just a little bit about that. Like Neil said, again, that is a really valid argument. Nobody knows. It could be one little tip off suddenly. But the idea that a lot of people, even some of my friends, were kind of upset at me for saying I wasn't, we can't vote, but I wasn't gonna side with Hillary. I was like, I don't particularly care that she's a woman. That definitely, that whole, race, gender argument was a huge part, I think, in a lot of people switching their votes, which isn't what it should be about. Already, when voting is so corrupted, you already change your opinion, so it's not, you might as well not count it as a vote at all. So, you might as well not count it as a vote at all.
So I think Marley brought a very good point to the table. I think he can bring up a new discussion, is that a lot of people voted for her because we need a woman president right now. And it's like, first of all, I don't want to say I agree, but I understand that viewpoint. It's about time we've had some diversity leading this country. But honestly, to me, it doesn't really matter what gender or race they are, because really that's another way of really racial and sexual discrimination. It really is, because it's this gender, because it's this race. That's why I'm voting. And then they put their little blinders on and they go for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's such a horrible way of thinking, because you could end up putting a monster in there. I'm sure a very large percentage of Hillary voters had no idea who they were voting for and said, she's a woman, she's strong, and she's ready to do this, let's go. No, she's a shady, and honestly, she's done some horrible things.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of, all that social component really comes in, like the pressure, but you're not voting for a woman and you're a woman. Are you, do you hate women? Is that what it is? Do you not think a woman can be president? It's like, no, this whole thing is really brought to light how much, when it comes to competition, I mean, even politically, that neutrality can be seen as opposition or favoring someone, but you kind of don't want to say it, which is a huge misconception.
So, I definitely agree with you. But I think another thing needs to be taken into account is, with all of, the whole thing with genders coming into play, where it was like, oh, since she's female, we have to vote for her. Before I say anything, Martin, did you want to say anything? Because I didn't.
No, I'm good.
Cool. So, where was I? Yeah. So the thing is that brought, the social, I think I really want to talk about, the social justice warriors coming in and supporting Hillary. And the thing is that your opinion on the social justice warriors, or any types, and there are different types, obviously. I don't like to put them all into one bundle. But the problem is with that is that really, honestly, it just shot Hillary in the foot. They just was supporting them. They shot her in the foot, and I'm about to explain why. It's because one of the most deadly weapon you can use against another person when you're trying to, defeat them in a political situation or a debate is to just dismiss their arguments. If you dismiss somebody's arguments without addressing them, there's a big problem. Because once you dismiss them, you can be like, ha, 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 yeah. So I know the skeptic community, at least on YouTube, mostly went to Trump's side, and their memes spread. Basically like, you're voting for Hillary, you're a triggered liberal, and really, that just screwed Hillary over. That just shut up Hillary supporters. A lot of them, a very large percentage of them were making awesome claims. Like, there are those videos where they go into Raz microphones, like, can you explain one thing about your candidate? And they just say, oh, she's a woman. Obviously, That's stupid. But when you take all of the Hillary supporters and just label them as, oh, they're just so triggered social justice warriors. They're triggered. Who cares what they think? Who cares what they have to say? Honestly, that is one of the most despicable things that can ever be used in a debate or a competition or an election, because it just takes away all the facts. And really ironically, that's what a bunch of Trump supporters were saying. They don't have any facts. Well, what are you calling them? Triggered liberals and dismissing the facts that some of them have very good things to say about? It's insane. And Martin, you want to say something?
And if you're a Donald Trump supporter, you're a racist, sexist jerk who just needs to go. Like, it's the same either way. Like, if you like this person, you're obviously just like the other people that like this person. Like, there's no, like, if I like peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a terrorist likes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, does that make me a terrorist? Like...
Yeah, it was definitely, it's like, how bad can you make the other party feel? This whole election, I mean, for the longest, basically since YouTube, since Reddit, since 4chan, it's been, battle of the internet, people. And that definitely came into play a lot more than I thought it would. It was certainly, like Neil said, it's, oh, you do this, oh, you do this. I think Martin's comparison was probably the best, or his logic was definitely the best. Oh, so I like sandwiches. You like sandwiches too? All right, so we're the exact same person. We're basically twins. Yeah.
Sorry, I almost left the meeting there. I pressed the wrong button.
Sorry, we made you mad.
So, yeah, but as Martin said, just to be clear, I definitely wasn't saying it's only the Trump supporters doing this. Martin just brought up a really good point, and that was that it definitely goes both ways, and I really cannot stand it when there's very few things that legitimately trigger me. Like, not kidding, they legitimately trigger me. That is dismissal of claims. If you want to joke around, that's fine. I love comedians who do news or comedians who debate, because it's hilarious watching what happens, right? But when it comes to actual choosing who's going to be the leader of the country or choosing a very important decision, when you dismiss through jokes, it's insane. And I cannot stand it when you call Trump supporters racist or horrible. And I swear, I could walk up to somebody and I could just be like, oh, yeah, well, I'm kind of neutral on the subject. Like Molly was saying, I'm kind of neutral on the subject, but because, Trump does this, who does this? Well, then you must be a sexist, a racist, or you must be triggered, a liberal. But honestly, I think you're more likely to be called a sexist and a racist if you say you're on the fence. And if you support Hillary, you're more likely to be called a triggered social justice warrior who doesn't know any facts.
It's a stereotyping or archetyping. I'm not sure which term to use. It's an archetyping of a voter. which is it takes away from the individuality that voting has or is supposed to have. Because as I've said, I know the American justice system is gone, the voting system is gone, but the idea that you're supposed to vote for what you want was completely it was totally off the board for so many people because of how it could even affect their relationships with real life people. And that is what scared me. It's like, you really, guys? You don't know these people? Y'all could just go out the country. And it just keeps coming back to the fact that, I don't want to be seen as that type of person.
I think it's very interesting how many friendships have probably been destroyed from this election. Like one of, if not the most scariest thing, which isn't how you say that, but whatever. The scariest thing that I've seen in the past 2 years with the election drama is the way the people are acting and the way the people who are voting for the people are acting. Like they're doing some very bad things. Like it's very sad to see how much people care about these candidates to the point where they're going to do some very horrible things to other people. It's very sad.
Yeah, that's one of the things that definitely, it really just made me scratch my head, because honestly, at the end of the day, these are just regular people. They're strangers that I don't really care about. We're just making somebody who's going to help run our country. So really, you need to realize they are tools. We do not know them personally, okay? We do not know these people personally. You should not ban people out of your life who just have opposing views from you. And so many people are unwilling to discuss this. It's insane. People take it so personally. If your candidate loses, if I was like very much supporting a candidate, I would be pretty devastated if they lost. But that would be because of what they were going to do for the country, not because of them, because they are strangers.
Right.
It's like they're just strangers.
Yeah, it's like football teams, and I'm saying American football because
I know, right?
we call football soccer. Yeah, but it's like football teams. There's like people getting into fist fights and everything over all of this, and at the end of the day, they're just gonna they're just gonna follow the money. You do know that, right? Like there's not gonna be any, hey, no, they might follow through on some of their promises, but for the most part, the lobbyists and everything, that's going to be, the lobbyists might as well be the president, right? The people
Absolutely.
yeah, it makes no difference.
Yeah. So, Martin, do you want to?
An analogy I've heard someone use recently is that all politicians are lizards that wear masks to look like humans, and Donald Trump is just the first person to come along and say, you know what, I don't want to wear a mask. It's uncomfortable in here. I'm just going to be a lizard. And because of that, now because we have the internet and stuff, everyone else is realizing, hey, all these other guys are lizards too. What are we going to do about this? And it's very interesting.
Yeah. So actually, what you just said, it's a legitimate conspiracy theory that people believe that lizards. Yes, it's definitely an interesting one. It's interesting, but I can definitely see that Trump. I gotta say, I feel like he's been a very real president, whether you like that or not. I don't think he's been very real with what he's saying. But the point is that, is there anything else we want to talk about? I think we should move on unless there's anything else we want to talk about, during the election drama, or anything. I think we can, all agree that both of them are very unsavory characters because, Hillary is probably going to could have started World War III. And if you don't believe that, that's fine. But keyword is there, believe. I have facts to back up my argument from presidential debates. And if you want to nitpick what you want to hear, that's fine. But And Trump, well, I mean, as much as people dismiss him, saying I hate the dismissals, but people dismiss him as being a sexist and a racist. I'm not gonna lie, you have to be a pretty despicable person to abuse a woman or anybody for that matter sexually. That's pretty messed up. So I know people like to dismiss him like he's not. I don't know if that's. I don't know. I guess technically by textbook definition, it doesn't make you a sexist to sexually abuse somebody. But yeah, he definitely. See what he said. I don't know when that recording was going on. It's like, first of all, that's not locker room talk. I don't know what you think locker room talk is. Is the locker room the worst place on planet Earth? Is that what the locker room is? Do laws stop existing there? They might stop existing there due to how Donald Trump has used them. So yeah, both candidates can cause some. And before you say like, oh, Hillary has evolved as a person. Okay, I've heard that argument before. Stop. She changes her viewpoints based on political stuff. I mean, come on. There was this whole thing where, and I won't go into it that much, but I think you can look up on YouTube Elizabeth Warren, Hillary Clinton credit card scandal or something like that. And it was the scummiest thing. She helped stop something that was really messed up when she had the power to. But then when she was, I think it was in the Senate, she got lobbied, and when she had the money in her hands, she voted exactly for the thing she was trying to stop. And I think you can look Elizabeth Warren, Hillary Clinton, credit card scandal, or something like that. But it was the scummiest thing.
And the fact that the wake up, the whole wake up call of the election, okay, so, all right, let me see if I can. All right, so as a person of color, a Black person, right? The argument within my community was, the whole racist thing. It's like now Black people are going to have to get serious because we had a Black president. Suddenly we had no worries, no problems in the world, which isn't true, obviously. But I think, especially within my community, a lot of Black people that I know were surprised. They were like, well, how could that be? And I didn't know what to say to them. They thought, he's bringing up all the racism of the world, the realness. And I said, where have you been? Where have you been when all of this has been going on? He's not, like the human incarnation of racism or white supremacy. He is another white dude, okay? Really powerful, very, very worrying that he has the status that he does, but it's not anything new. And I feel like that was definitely a part of the scare and the reason that a lot of people are going to be in the position that they are now, like they haven't adjusted themselves for the presidency of a white supremacist. So.
All right. So apparently we have a question from the audience.
Ooh.
Yeah. From Dylan, if that's the Dylan I know. Hi, Dylan. So if you could have voted, would you have voted? And if so, for whom? So I think we've been talking about how much we've debated about this with ourselves. So would anybody like to answer this question that we're probably still debating with ourselves first? I don't see any volunteers.
I don't know.
Oh, great. Go.
To be completely honest with you, I would not have voted. I just wouldn't, I know a lot of people say, that you shouldn't do that. You have the right to vote and you should. People have died for people's right to vote and we need to vote. If I don't see a candidate that I like, I'm not going to vote.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the Electoral College is a thing. You can vote all you want. You could have 100,000 fake IDs and vote for the same person under all of them, then at the end of the day, the opposite person could still win. So to answer your question, Dylan, I would not vote. But if you're saying I had to, like the government forced you into voting, which who knows may happen one day. Yeah, bear with me. I would vote for Trump because the world needs a wake up. But not the world. America needs a wake up call of that whole thing. It really just needs to be like, oh, we can't just protest anymore. We can't just march anymore. We got to do something. He's here. That I feel like him in office. It's already happening. There needs to be an action besides what I see as a plea through a march or a protest. I'm not saying everyone should go all out and like bomb the White House and stuff, but there needs to be some sort of plan within the communities. It can't be, well, we're relying on America now, so we just have to do what he says. Rely on yourself. Take care of your family. Make a plan. Doomsday prepping, that'll help you now. That doomsday is here.
So, yeah, so basically, I guess we heard from both of you. Martin, you said you wouldn't vote, and Marla, you said you wouldn't vote either, but if you had to, you'd vote for Trump. So I guess that comes to me where I guess that, well, if you asked past me, the more I was more ignorant of the election, I'd probably have voted for Hillary because, see, the thing that really, really scares me is the World War III thing. People say she wouldn't have done it. Look, here's the thing. I don't care how much you say it, but if she says it in a presidential debate and backs up that claim that she's going to put a no-fly zone over Syria, and many experts say that could start World War III, do you really want to take that chance? Honestly, listen, I could not care less if there's some horrible, sexually abusive, even if he is racist, but that's another debate, or sexually abusive moron who doesn't know when to pick up a phone, because that's another thing, the whole thing with the picking up the phone and talking to the president of Taiwan. But so yeah, honestly, if I had the ability to vote, this is something that I'll probably second guess a lot. Before I learn more, I definitely would have voted for Hillary, hands down. But now learning all this, I think I might vote for Trump, or maybe I wouldn't vote at all, because you have to understand, as Martin said, he said you can do whatever you want. And it's like, this is a country where even if you don't vote, that's a vote, okay? I know somebody who says that I don't vote. The reason I don't vote is because I want one day nobody to vote and this whole horrible corrupt system to come crashing down.
That's not how it's gonna work.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen, but I respect that like nothing else, because that is a very real, legitimate claim. But I guess I'm really dodging the question. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I think I'd have to research a lot more, because it would be a lot of pressure. So honestly, it's just a toss-up between the three. I'd probably end up picking one or the other, just because if I don't vote at all, I would feel partially responsible for the person getting it, even though the Electoral College one vote doesn't really matter that much. But it was pretty close, so it doesn't help to, it's not like it doesn't help to help. So yeah, I honestly can say with all my heart that I don't know what I would have done. Well, I would have voted for Hillary, but if I had the knowledge that I knew now, I don't know what I would have done.
Something that someone I know has said multiple times that I really agree with is, people didn't die for our right to vote, they died for our right to choose, which is how I like to look at it, because, I mean, when it comes down to it, no one in this election was ideal. but like you guys all picked if you had to. If I had to, I'd say Gary Johnson because, you know, he's not great, but he's not despicable, and yeah.
Is the word you're looking for won't start World War III and not sexually abusive? Is wrong? Is that the word you're looking
Perhaps.
As far as
I think that's it. So honestly, it doesn't really matter that much what they stand for because it's probably going to be a hell of a lot better than what we have now. But it doesn't really matter. Trump is president, and I think it'll be very interesting to talk about what he has done. So, yeah, what do we think about that? So, one of the things he did while he was president-elect, not president, was, I don't know if you guys know really about the Taiwan phone call incident. Forgive me if I mess up a little bit. Feel free to chat and tell me how horribly wrong I am so I can immediately correct myself. So what basically happened is that this is a very watered down version of it. You really should look it up. You really should. There's a disagreement between mainland China and Taiwan where they both said we're true China. The very watered down version. I'm going to skip over probably 99.99% of the details, even though I probably don't know that much of the details. Just try to put this out as much as I can. And they went to this like neutral period, and America was like, okay, this is an extremely delicate situation. If we do anything, so we have to protect our values as America, is what America's doing. And they're like, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to not do anything because, you know, we want China's trade. We're kind of in a relationship with China, even though we hate China, love-hate relationship, mostly hate. But so, and Taiwan, they're like, oh, well, they're a democracy, American beliefs, you have to stand up for them. So they're really neutral in this situation. The situation has kind of changed and shifted from president to president, but as far as my knowledge goes, and as far as, you know, most of the articles and ranting people go, is that it's never gone this far. What happened was the president of Taiwan, she called Trump and Trump picked up the phone. I don't really know what happened. Basically, it informally acknowledged Taiwan as a legitimate country. Well, China's like, oh, hell no, we own them. So it's a more complicated situation than I'm putting it, but China got really pissed off. And that's a problem because when the president comes into office, I really don't want him messing things around. And the thing is, China kind of has us, you know, by the neck because, you know, everything you see, they own all of our items. But the thing is that China depends on America economically because they're getting a bunch of money from America. But what's the word? It's a saying. I think it's hubris. Never underestimate your opponent. Never underestimate what they're willing to sacrifice for victory. And I really don't want to piss anyone off. And the thing is, and I don't really know, this is me just speculating again heavily. It's that Trump, you know, and Russia were getting buddy-buddy. But the thing is, Russia and China are fierce, fierce allies. And America and Russia are kind of just beginning to almost just look at each other. It's like they both beat each other up on the playground. And they're like, okay, I don't know what this guy's about.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like when I was a kid, I'd be in grade school. I mean, probably kindergarten or the second grade, right?
Yeah, they called you a
and
butthead.
you'd be friends, right? You'd be friends with someone that your other friend doesn't like, and suddenly y'all are looking at each other like, I don't know if we're friends or not because I don't like them. That means you can't like them or we can't be friends. That whole politics are really childish. Like if you put a couple toddlers somewhere in there, nobody would be able to tell the difference. So you just wouldn't hear as much talking.
Toddlers have better haircuts. Just saying.
Valid point.
So unless we have anything to say else, I guess we can go ahead and go on break and watch the nifty, cool break video. I guess we'll address. So after that, I guess we'll address any questions and comments, and then we'll continue on what we were talking about. So, Biggie, let's play the break vid.
I moved on her, actually. You know, she was down in Palm Beach. I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it.
It's huge news, Sarah.
No, Nancy. Yeah. No, this was marriages, and I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted to get some furniture. I said, I'll show you where they have some nice furniture. I took her out furniture. I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there, and she was married. And all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony everything. She's totally changed her look. I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the
Folks, of course, that's Donald Trump caught on tape on Access Hollywood 2005, where he was bragging about sexually assaulting women and kissing them when they did not want to be kissed. Well, he still won the campaign. Largely white women still voted for him. Black women did not. Right. Now, day after the inauguration, hundreds of thousands of women will be in D.C. for the Women's March on Washington, sending him a signal in terms of what they want to be focused on. Joining us right now is Tamika Mallory, New York Justice League, who is one of the national co-chairs of the Women's March in Washington. Tamika, first and foremost, what is the goal and the focus of this march?
Well, I mean, first of all, Roland, there is a movement that you know has been going on. Mm-hmm. So we are going to Washington, D.C. with a lot of stuff in mind. Obviously, voting rights is clearly important, and especially if you're looking at what happened in this election, you know we have to go to Washington to come to Washington to talk about voting rights. But women's rights as human rights means that all the issues in our family, from racial justice to economic justice to civil rights, all of those things are important to us. And we're coming to Washington, D.C. not for a march on Trump, but a march on Washington, because all the halls of power are here, and we need to come and address the Congress, the Senate, let folks know you're back in session, we're here, we're paying attention to you, and we need you to ensure that our rights are not only protected, but there's some stuff that needs to get done that we need you to take care of.
And so, and again, as I discussed in the previous segment, this also comes down to very specific issues. This is when you challenge power and say, okay, fine, all these folks voted for you. You're going to be in the White House for the next 4 years. We are going to hold you accountable on the issues that matter to us. For what are those issues? So
we have folks coming from the climate justice world. Obviously, police accountability, very important. The LGBTQIA community will be there. Economic justice, obviously, we're looking at the issue of equal pay, sexism in the workplace, all of the issues that matter to women. But again, not just women, not just reproductive rights, which is clearly an important issue, but everyone in our household is being carried on our backs. I mean, Barbara, you know that. We're carrying the entire family. So my 17-year-old son, when he walks out the door, I need to know that he is not going to be profiled when he walks into a store. I need to know he's not going to be killed by a police officer who's not going to be held accountable. And furthermore, I need to know that Ray Ray on a street corner is not going to have a gun and be able to shoot him either. So we're dealing with the entire community. We have been joined by over 400 partners. The NAACP is on board, Amnesty International, several groups, Planned Parenthood, NARAL. We've been joined by all of those who, again, have been doing this work. This is a continuation of the work that's already been happening.
Barbara?
I think it means a lot for women to come together, for women to unite, to march. I mean, what I love is it's happening all over the country. Absolutely. It's not just in Washington, D.C. We're going to have our thousands and thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of women here, but all over the country people are marching, and men are joining in. Sure. I am so proud of the men who are saying to their sons, let's be feminists. Right. Let's support women. This is going to be so critical, because I think it's going to set a stage. It's going to have a catalytic wave effect for women empowerment, women running for office, women putting forth agendas, women, black women, Latino women, Asian women, Native American women, all of us
My thing is-
coming together as one united.
Scott?
And that's one united with, I love the message about men, because women,
Yes.
obviously, whether it's Pookie on the corner or whether it's criminal justice and keeping guns out off the streets, super important. I think this is just as important for men as it is for women.
Yes,
They can have the Women's March,
Yes.
if you will.
Yeah.
And so I'm urging all of my brothers,
Yes.
and black, white, yellow, or brown,
Be
to
there.
come out and stand
That's
on
right.
these issues.
What I
Precisely.
appreciate about what you said is this isn't a march on Trump. This is a march because all the halls of power are here in D.C. And for the most part, when it comes to getting your issues addressed, let's work together on what we can get done. Let's find common ground first, and then we're going to seek out additional pathways to get what we want to get done. So I appreciate you.
We're a long way from common ground, though, with this president coming in. A long way, and that's another big reason why we need to be marching on
I got to
Washington.
ask you this question here, Tamika, and that is it came up in dealing with a group that is pro-life that want to participate, and then some feminists complain, say they should not be there. Will pro-life women's organizations be allowed to participate? Explain what happened there.
First of all, our platform is clear. If you go to womensmarch.com, you will see that our platform is pro-choice. So anyone who supports that is welcome to be there. But there was an oversight that particular organization made it to our website. We've now corrected it. And the bottom line is that the principles and the platform for which we stand remains. We are pro-choice.
But what about that? If you're talking about common ground, how do you also bring in other groups that may have a different point of view?
Well, I mean, first of all, pro-choice means pro-life. If that's what you want to believe in, that's fine. Pro-choice for us is where we stand. And again, if you support that, then you're able to be there. I do think that there has to be some lines drawn in the sand. This is who we are. We can't waver because we've done that. We've done that. We keep on compromising and being everybody work together, and then we lose. We don't get what we need to get done. In this particular presidency, during this administration, we're going to have to be very specific about what it is that we want and how we're going to work together to get it done. If you want to be an ally or we're going to be a part of a coalition, it has to be okay for us to talk about what white privilege looks like. It has to be okay for us to talk about these issues that are uncomfortable. And if you support that, then you're welcome to be at the table.
All right, then. So, and also, how many buses you already have coming?
Oh, no bus company in this country has buses left. So I won't say the numbers because the numbers are the devil. But everywhere you call, they say they're sold out. So if that's any indication, but I would like to say, as Barbara has said, there are women marching all over the world, not just in it's over 300 marches happening. Amazing. And shout out to the women who've been working on the ground. Some have never been involved in a movement before, but they are here now because they understand that our issues intersect, and we have to stand up and be one collective voice.
All right, then.
Thank you.
Kickstart your day at 7 and get the news you need from the perspective you want. News 1 Now with Roland Martin. Every weekday morning at 7 on TV 1.
Welcome back, everyone, to Youths on Subjects of the World. I am Marley, and the video that you just saw was about the Women's Rights March, and we're going to be talking about that. So, having a lot of conversations within my family about this, I thought that I'd go first. So, my personal opinion on the idea of doing the march against it is that it's a noble attempt. Yes, it's a noble attempt, hands down. The idea that, you want to express yourself, express your disdain for something that this person has done by pooling resources and all that. It's definitely noteworthy. But for the longest, pretty much ever since I started reading Malcolm X's autobiography, I've had a bit of a problem with protests and marches and the like. And to give a brief explanation, the reason for that is because it's not, at the end of the day, it doesn't really do anything. It gets your opinion out there. It gets, you find other people that you can, that share your views, but what does it really do towards the problem? And I've seen that it doesn't seem to do a lot. And the how I believe it was Martin that was saying, one of his friends said that they're not going to vote because you just want the capitalist system to come crashing down. And it won't happen if you protest, because it's, in a way, it's asking, it's not like you're saying it's a capitalist system, it's based on money, so what we need to do is we don't buy anything, right? We don't take things that are imported, and suddenly they just start losing money. Then they're weak. It's asking, it's like, we know this is but you can't do that because such and such, and it seems really ineffective for a final goal. It just seems like releasing stress. So if anybody wants to add anything or make a specific point, please go ahead.
I think depending on the subject, protests can either be very helpful or do the exact opposite of what you're trying to accomplish. And I think with something like this, it doesn't really do much. Like, it can kind of do the opposite, because it's not getting your opinion out, it's getting a lot of people saying, oh, well, you're just a crybaby who can't handle the results, which isn't true. But
right.
It does the opposite of what you're trying to do, and it really doesn't accomplish much. I mean, there's a lot of other ways to get what you're trying to accomplish without going in the streets with signs. I mean,
right, it's action versus words.
Yeah. Neil, you got anything to say about it?
Yeah, so I hear you guys talking a lot about, you got to take action. But, what action could they take, do you think? Because, I mean, really, what power do they have other than their freedom of speech? First of all, freedom of speech is one of the best things in this world. In every country that has freedom of speech, it's just automatically it's just such an awesome thing to have. And the thing is, if you look at, you were just talking about it's all based on money and stuff. Well, this is the only weapon they have. So, because you were talking about actions versus words. So what actions do you think they could take in this situation?
Well, I think that I take a good stance with boycotts and the like. There was a community at a time, I can't remember where, it was somewhere in the South that was made completely of Black people, Black-owned shops and barbers, and they did everything. It was a Black community in the middle of the racist South, and they were thriving. Okay, they were working with their own people. So in the context of this particular situation with Trump and the women, every person is amazing, but if you looked at any videos or pictures, you saw how many people were there. There is so much you could do with that amount of people. You could build your own little town, and we got the internet. You could Amazon things to people. People could stop, work, and you could build your life around that. People could stop work. They could stop buying certain things. I feel like there's a lot that they could do if they put more faith in their community rather than the government, hoping that the government would do something with their cries, with their pleas.
Yeah, but the thing is that a lot of people, they want to protest the government, and they want the government to change. And while I definitely see that, if you put your faith in community, you can make your community better with all that people. But most people, I don't want to say they're lazy, but they don't want to invest so much, like protesting jobs. This is, I guess you could call them lazy for not wanting to do that. Well, not lazy, but I guess you could say, well, if you really want to make a change, that's what you have to do. So I respect any protest, because I really think protesting is a great way to express yourself and show your viewpoints, because I guess I feel that the system could work, even though the system is horribly corrupt. I guess I don't want to say that I have faith in the system, as faith is weak because it's the belief in something without any evidence or proof. So I don't want to say that I have faith in the system, but I think that it could work. because people have made differences before, I think it could happen now. But my personal opinion on, so any rights protest is great and awesome. It honestly depends on exactly what they're asking. If you go out in a riot, and not riot, if you go out in peaceful protest, whatever you're peaceful protesting, good for you, because you're peaceful protesting. But if you're for example, if you're just saying we want this, or for example, the people who are protesting Trump, a bunch of people protesting Trump, and it's like they knew nothing about what they were talking about, yet they were protesting throughout the night, yet they knew nothing about what the candidate they were protesting. They knew nothing about the candidate that they liked. There were children out there. Honestly, some children they really look up to their parents. And the thing is, unless a children is really free to learn whatever and express their minds and think for themselves, unless they do that, then there's going to be a real problem, because you just have generations of, I don't want to say, I guess I have to, the sheeple. They're just bird like sheep. They're sheeple. I know that's word a lot, like wake up sheeple, Illuminati confirmed. But really, it's true. So that's my opinion on protests in general. You better be protesting for something good and not something you know nothing about. And I know you really want to say something, Martin, so go ahead.
I feel like protests are very ineffective now, because a lot of the opinions that people have collectively can be shared in a lot of other ways. There's no one that doesn't know that these people have these opinions, because most of the people that live in America have access to social media, and a lot of them are sharing their opinions every day on things like Facebook and Twitter, and it's not like there's any lack of people that agree with them. So I feel like protests don't do a lot more than a Facebook post does. But that's just
and I definitely agree with that. I stand by my point that, in this case, actions speak louder than words. But I also got Neil's point of what can they do? There are a lot of situations where there may not be anything you can do. It may be out of your control. And for me, like how I have a lot of things that I deal with where I write when I feel like I don't have any control, protesting is what they feel like they can do to show that they're actively supporting these ideals. One of the things that I think a lot of people don't have any control over is immigration, because that's strictly regulated by the government. And even when it's illegal, the government still figures out the funding for the prison that you're going to go into, or the refugee homes. I'm sorry. That is definitely something to protest. So I'm going to ask the same question Neil did and say, what do you think people that are protesting immigration can do besides protest? How would you act towards that? Because right now I can't think of anything, actually.
I can't think of anything either. I think protests, like I said, are good for situations, and I think in this situation it can be helpful. And I think it's good that people know that there is people trying to stick up for them, especially if you're in a situation where this affects you a lot. And I think protests give hope, and I think that's something that needs to be taken into account, because it sounds silly when you say it, but it helps. If you understand that there's people that agree with you, it's very hard to talk about something when you understand both points and you agree with both points at the same time.
I get it. It's like writing.
So
no, you're good.
So the thing is that, so I definitely agree that social media is an amazing thing. But again, another problem with it is that labeling. If you try to do something, if you try to post this on social media, you're a social justice warrior, you're a trigger. Believe me, I laugh at videos of people getting triggered over the stupidest things all the time. But but that's when I can refute their points, and if I can talk to them. If I don't understand their points, or if I need to be educated on them, or if I don't really understand their viewpoints, I really have no right to dismiss their entire argument. I think protests and social media is a great way to spread your word. And I love freedom of speech. And I know I've said that, but I really do. But I think we should, unless anybody has some closing notes to say on the protest, I think we should move on, because I know we had some questions and comments. So we want to address those real quick. Is everybody cool with that? Cool?
Yeah.
Cool?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Great.
Yeah, I'm good. Yep.
Cool. All right, let's see. So we have, we have a question. Could you share your thoughts about the recent immigration order Trump made? Well, I think we're going to definitely talk about that. That is a big thing. We're definitely going to talk about that. So we're definitely going to go to that. That's a big thing. And there's another one that says, but if your candidate does something bad, it isn't your fault. And, that's not really a question. That's just a comment. And that is true. That is true. I know a lot of people, I know we were just stressing out, like, who would we vote for? What would we do? And yeah, it's true. If a candidate really does something bad, should we be really, like on the one hand, we really shouldn't be held to a moral standpoint. We did what we thought was best. We all used with the most evidence. But again, a lot of people don't do that. But we tried to get a lot of evidence and tried to make, if we would have voted, this is all hypothetical, tried to make an educated decision. But yeah, it is true. If a candidate does something, it really isn't your fault. But again, I definitely can't help feeling morally responsible for putting that person in power. I think most Americans feel that way. Anybody want to talk about that? Comment? Want to talk about that comment? I know Martin wants to say something.
Okay, so I think no, you are not held responsible if the candidate you voted for does something despicable. But I think everyone needs to do as much research, and I know not everyone has time to spend hours on the internet finding out everything they can about the candidates, but at least understand what they want to do and what the policies they want to change or make or do anything related to that before you make the decision. And if you make the wrong one after that, it's not your fault at all. And like you can't be held accountable for something someone you don't even know does. You just have to agree with something that they said on TV or something.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, they take that personally, and I don't see why, because the government and, the system, it's not the people as a working system. It's not, the people want this, the people want that. Let's see how we can do that. And this is what the system is. That's not how it is here. That's not how it is in America. It's not even a machine, really. It's people that aren't for the people. They're for themselves. And I think a lot of people don't get that. They still feel like, it just comes down to a whole lot of patriotism. It's like America is a group, we vote. We were inspired. We were, based off Athens' democracy, Greece's democracy, which really wasn't the whole 300 theory. Anyway, it's an old-timey nostalgic view that doesn't make any sense for the current situation.
Yeah, so I guess one of the things that I would say is, I guess it's kind of how you see it, if it's really your fault. I like to take as much time as possible. Even because I'm not voting, I still take as much time as possible to look into the candidates, to form my own viewpoint. And because of me doing that, I do hold myself responsible. What happens? To an extent, of course. If you don't have time to do that, then you definitely shouldn't, or if you don't feel like, you definitely shouldn't. Now again, dismissing the whole this is not me dismissing. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. This isn't me dismissing the fact that you should do at least a little bit as much research as you can. Again, as you can. I'm not saying you should be on the internet 24/7. I'm saying as you can. Right. So a simple thing to do is read their platform or watch just a few of the president's debates or watch the highlights of them. It's a very simple thing to do, and it can teach you a lot about them instead of people voting along party lines or people just voting how their parents voted, which is just extremely common. So yeah.
Well, if we have the time, or if nobody else had anything else to add, could we talk about that? Because, I mean, we've been talking a lot about the election itself, and we've definitely had some talks about the effect that it may have on the future and even what's happening now. But how do you think this is affecting, because we're on an unschooling, type thing, future generations, children, families, the thoughts of kids who their parents are like forcing their ideas and their biases on them. How do you think that's going to affect children that are going to grow up with Donald Trump as the president? Not necessarily their president, but the president.
I think this isn't the first time something like this has happened, where children grow up with the opinion their parents had at the time.
Right.
But it's also very different because now we have a lot more ways for children to form their own opinions. But when we have a media system that consists of, like, everyone's considers themselves to be like a journalist now because everyone is making articles and putting their opinions out. So it's very hard to find what the truth is, and I feel bad for people who are in a situation where they can't, they don't have time to research it. They see what their parents have said and they see what's on the news or what their Facebook friends are saying or whatever, and they just form an opinion off of that, like, oh, everyone hates Donald Trump. I hate Donald Trump. And I'm not saying you shouldn't hate Donald Trump, because you should, but I'm just saying you should have more evidence to go upon that than just everyone else hates him, so I should too.
I think one of the reasons that this election was considered the biggest, and it really started out when everybody was like, oh, it's actually going to be Hillary versus Donald here, or Trump versus Clinton here. It's like one of the reasons for me, not just the news outlets, the Rachel Maddow, the CNN, and so forth, that it was really big is because of the social element, how much of a part social media and just society in general played in this election, as well as the previous one. But we're in a new year now, so everything is brand new. So it was definitely not really the scariest, but the part that where I was like, oh, I'm actually gonna have to do something here. I'm actually have to start paying attention, because I was like, I was fairly little. I didn't really worry about it when Barack Obama was president, when he was running for president. But now, I'm 12, so I'm gonna be growing up with this dude until he dies or he's impeached, and it's definitely something that I'm gonna have to be looking into to deal with myself. It's a whole new level of, I got to take of this autonomy, this self-responsibility due to the president.
Yeah, so I think that, so if anybody has anything else to say on that, I think you should go ahead and say it, because we should, because I know we need to talk about the thing with Trump and the immigrants. And I also want to talk about #NotMyPresident and things like that. But I think do you guys agree that we should talk about the immigration first? Because I think that would be best. Or do you disagree?
Absolutely, we can do that.
Right, because I know that's a subject that's hot right now. So, what?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, because
Right.
a lot of things. So, let me just begin by addressing kind of what happened. So, Trump, again, this is I was trying to do as much research as I can in a small amount of time. But what Trump did is that he tried to stop immigration from several different Muslim countries. So here's the thing. A lot of people argue that this is unconstitutional, that just because they have this belief doesn't mean they should be discriminated against. And I definitely see that. Yet there are other people that say, well, even if these people aren't violent, the majority, like a humongous and majority amount of these terrorist attacks are done from Muslims, and therefore we should do everything we can to stop them. And then again, the other side argues, but even though if you look at the exact facts and charts, it may technically say that, facts and charts may technically say that, does that still make it morally okay? Because does that still make it morally okay to just judge people based on that? What do you guys think?
So I definitely don't think, and I think everybody knows this, but it's nowhere near as shallow as Muslim or terrorist, right? Associating those two. It's what I believe it's Middle Eastern, Arabic appearance, that people associate with Muslims, and that whole idea it's the race. You can't talk about America without talking about race. Nobody's ever heard of that. It definitely comes to that, like the almost over criminalization of illegal street drugs in relation to the Black population. Like I don't know if anybody's seen this, but it was Richard Nixon's, like one of his PR people, and he released something saying, by getting the public to associate drugs with Black people, we can do. It's that same thing, okay? If we're able to associate, which they already have, the whole country already has this idea of what a Muslim looks like, what a terrorist looks like. If we can associate these Middle Easterns with Muslims and Muslims with terrorists, then, okay, we can just put all of them in jail, or we can deport all of them, or we can kill all of them. It's a bigger plan than some people might think it is.
Yeah, so I just want to say one thing, then talk, Martin, but I just want to say one thing, is that, it's definitely the same thing where, the same thing with what you said about Richard Nixon and us trying to associate the blacks with the black side. That was a very politically incorrect thing to say. The African American community with drugs, and to destabilize them and just make them seem like just
mindless,
dangerous people, mindless people. And obviously, that's horribly racist. And that's a horrible thing to do. But the thing is that, again, it still comes down to the same argument. Technically, if you look at the technicalities, the large amount of terrorist attacks do come from Muslim countries and Muslims, but just because of that fact on a chart, does that make it okay? Yes, technically, it might be saving lives, but does that make it okay? Does that make it okay?
Yeah, that's definitely what they rely on. I'm sorry, I'll finish. That's definitely what they being the government and Donald Trump's whole squad, his whole posse, rely on. The statistics. If you're able to dehumanize a person by religion, you can basically do anything. And, statistics might not even be wrong because statistics are just numbers, right? You could put anything. You could put A, B, C, D, E, F, G at the bottom of the study and say, this is where it came from. And they'd use the statistics in one of their campaigns. And suddenly you have millions of people believing avocados are bombs or something. So it's really not, it's a deep subject. And Martin, you can go ahead now.
I think it kind of comes back to the same thing I said about the sandwich. Like, if a bunch of these people like sandwiches and a bunch of these people also like sandwiches, does that make, and one of them is a group of terrorists and one of them is just normal people, does that make them the same? Now, if you go to morally right, no, it is definitely not morally right. Even if you are possibly, and that's possibly saving lives, which, once again, possibly, it's still not morally right. And a lot of the things that has happened in the recent years are horribly bad, but we can't demonize everyone who has the same religious beliefs just because some people who believe the same thing are doing these terrible things, because that's not what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to just say these people believe the same things, therefore we have to make sure they're not terrorists, therefore we should ban them.
I think the NSA is knocking on your door. Oh my God.
So I guess I should share my viewpoints and beliefs. And honestly, I've found myself saying in the past, you have to put your emotions at the door when it comes to numbers and the possibility of saving lives. But I mean, now it's just like we have values as a nation. America does. And as much as, again, it could, I'm saying could and possibly, but it is, and I'm not going to lie, even though, I mean, it is a concern that a terrorist attack could happen, but it's definitely a legitimate concern. If you dismiss that, just look at the statistics, but it is unconstitutional. And even if you disagree and you think they shouldn't be let into the country, it is unconstitutional because this is a secular state. I honestly, it's one of my biggest frustrations when people start talking about how this is a Christian country, blah, 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 blah. A lot of people say that. It's just like, no, we're a secular state. You know that, right? We're free of all religion. Well, not free of all religion, that's stupid. Freedom of religion, free of all religion. That might be freedom of religion. That would be interesting. Or freedom of religion. So I just cannot stand how much people, because so many patriots you see or patriotic are really all like Christianity belongs in America and blah blah blah. It's like, okay, Christianity does belong in America. So does Islam. So does this. So does that. So does all of them. All of them belong. Right. Your personal beliefs, whether you're somebody who thinks organized religion is horrible, whether you're somebody who believes this, believes that, even if one thing is detrimental, you have to understand what the beliefs of our country were founded on. And yes, I understand that the beliefs have been shifted and changed, and oh yeah, the original beliefs were so horrible, they didn't want most people to vote and the votes wouldn't count. But still, that doesn't dismiss the values. You're saying if they had decided that children would be executed if they weren't a certain height, that like we have to hold up the values. The values are what we make it. If you are an American, you can't just go around and say, okay, well, they wanted this, therefore I'm going to do this, and then not say, then you have to say, all right, slavery, let's go, people.
Right.
Like, seriously, America is what we make it. Even though the voting system is corrupt and a lot of it's broken and there's cheating, America is still, in a way, we make it. And if you want to try, and I will do everything within my reasonable power to make it that way. And but back to the final answer before Martin talks, is that so? I guess that because of that whole speech I made about how we have to protect, I think we need to focus on our American values at this point, even though there are numbers on a board. Imagine if your personal beliefs, well, and I don't care if you think, oh, but their personal beliefs are absurd. Well, okay, they think yours are absurd because maybe theirs are absurd. Who cares? Maybe theirs are, but maybe they don't know better. Maybe they do know better. Maybe that's what they believe. It doesn't matter. What if they were your personal beliefs and you're being discriminated against that way because a bunch of other people of the same belief were doing horrible things? That would suck. We have to, even though there are numbers and stuff, part of me just wants to uphold. So my answer is I feel we need to let them in because that's what I believe America is about. That's what I believe. Not owning a house is the American dream. That is the American dream. Acceptance and freedom of everything.
Brief note.
I would vote for
Neil. I would vote for Neil.
Not murder. Not for you and murder, just to be clear. Okay.
America's a psychopath country. That's what it is. Like, actually, probably, if you look at the way that it works, you could probably relate all the main traits and I'm not sure what the word is, beliefs, I suppose, associated with a psychopath, not like a murderous psychopath, but an actual psychopath, right, to the American system, just call it America, because American system, that's all it is. It's pretty weird. Like, I took a ton of psychology classes a couple days ago and I found it. Yes, that's it. Martin.
So we're talking a lot about how we want to try and make a difference, but how are we going to do that? Like, especially for people who maybe don't know. Does anyone here have any advice on how you can attempt to make a difference? Because, I mean, that's what we all want to do here, right?
Well, I don't necessarily think that you absolutely need to go protesting and social media justice. Honestly, the best way, I believe that stomping out ignorance and spreading knowledge is the best way to advance humankind and its understanding of everything. I believe if we come into contact with aliens or anything, I believe that stomping out ignorance and increasing knowledge and sharing information is the best way to, honestly, help the universe. Maybe in a small way because it's only helping humanity and helping other small things, but it is still the best way. So even if you're not marching on Washington, marching on the White House, protesting, social media every day, like even this podcast, we're trying to spread information here. You're watching this podcast, you're showing a massive support by watching it and supporting it. Therefore, we can continue to spread our information, and you should spread your information too while helping us spread our information. Really, everything you do makes a difference. Make everything count and make sure you know it counts, because if you believe that it counts, you're going to go a long way, because you're going to, when you start thinking about it, you start knowing what you want to do.
Right.
That's when things get really cool.
Yeah. Okay. So again, everybody vote for Neil in a decade or so, right? All right, cool. So there are two things for me. The first thing is to talk to people, not just on social media, but go out and get your opinions, because there is a certain amount, it's a large amount, but there is a certain amount of information that you need to find out for yourself, that you need to process for yourself without the input of other people, without the biases of other people, right? But at the same time, it's even this show, you get so many different perspectives that may give you sympathy, and it may not change your mind at all, but at least I have the information. At least I can speak from an educated point of view, within a subject or within anything really. And the second thing for me is build them communities. It's not like build a wall. No, build the community. And by that I mean self-supporting, altruistic type, utopia. If you want to turn the idea of capitalism or anything selfish around, you can't rely on this giant structure that within itself relies on capitalism. You need to be doing things for yourself and for other people. You need to make plans. You need to make the conscious decision to separate yourself from the things that you're relying on. And be a person. Stop being the sheeple. Be a person. Be an individual within a system. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
So I think that we really need to do things for ourselves. And like what Marley was saying, we need to build communities and we need to separate ourselves from relying so much on our government. Because I hear a lot of people saying, that's not my president, this is not the way I want things to be, and people are protesting, which can be a great way to do it. But there's also a lot of you can try and do something for yourself and not rely on the government to fix things. And there is a lot you can do. You can't fix America just by helping out others and building a community and doing things for yourself, but you can do a lot. You can create the life you want, because when it comes down to it, you're you and no one owns you, and you can do what you feel you need to do, for better or for worse.
Right. It's like laws are laws if you follow them. So.
So, yeah. So I think this was great. And so do we have time? Do we want to quickly go on that hashtag? I know this was a great wrap up. Do we have time? Do we want to go on like that really quick? Talk about hashtag not my president.
We got 20 minutes. Let's do this.
Oh, great! We got 20 minutes. Let's go. Yeah. All right. So I guess I'll start. So yeah. I guess I have to say hashtag not my president. I feel that's a very negative viewpoint because Trump. I get that you hate Trump, whether you have reason to or again you're ignorant and you have no idea what you're talking about. I get that you don't like Trump. But first of all, he is your president. But I can see, I obviously, it's not a literal hashtag. Like, it's literally not my president. They're trying to say, like, this is not somebody that stands up for my beliefs. This is not somebody that stands up for my American values. I understand that. But I still think, even if you hate what Trump's doing, we should try to give all the support we possibly can, not to his ideas or beliefs. We should try to help him as much as we can to be a great president. Now, all of our views of great presidents are different. That's what makes this viewpoint so agreeable, because it's basically whatever you want him to be. And the thing is, he is our president. He is our president. He may not act like it sometimes, but it's our job. Well, not our job, but if you want to do it, you can show him that what you want to do. He may not listen. He may not ever see your comment. But, I mean, just trying, I feel, makes a difference because you tried. And also, it's such a negative viewpoint. And I've seen so many things about, like, I was Trump, would just die. And that brings me into a hypocritical, like, people are being hypocritical with something. Right. And that's the thing. First of all, you don't... If you actually are loyal and you love America and you're a true American, you want your president to die. You want him to be murdered. Seriously? Even if he was tried for everything that he has done and he's been doing. Sorry, my chair scraped against the ground, if you heard that. Even if he was tried for everything he was doing, I doubt he'd be executed. Yet you want to murder him, not give him a fair trial, with all this stuff. And I heard the same stuff. Some Republicans were saying when Obama was in the White House, I hope Obama would just die. And I remember a bunch of Democrats were like, wow, that's a horrible thing to say because he's our president. If you don't like him, blah, 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 patriotic stuff and like that. And I agreed with them. But as soon as Trump comes into office, not all of them, obviously, maybe not most of them, but some of them start becoming complete hypocrites, and they're like, no, this is different, this is different. No, it's not. Even if you hate his belief system and you hate what he does, you have to understand that you're saying the same thing. Yeah, but Trump has done this, and Trump and Obama's better. Oh, okay, even if that's your educated viewpoint, you have to understand that they thought it was their educated viewpoint as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, do your research. This is an excuse for not doing your research and not debating and talking with people.
That element of empathy, it for me, a huge part of this election and the election itself and the effect it's going to have on things, I'm sorry if you hear the garage, is that you need to be an individual. You cannot be, you hear this a lot with, accidents and things like that, like car accident ads, but you cannot allow yourself to just be another statistic that technically doesn't even do anything, vote-wise, right? You need to have the ability, the skills, nobody's just kind of born with it, to discern when you actually need to take in information and when you can be like, all right, I think I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do. The skill to listen, right? The skill to pay attention to the things that are going in your ear and decide if it needs to go out the other or if you need to process it. And I think a lot of people can't do that, which is where the just die bandwagon comes on. One day we might see a GoFundMe for assassinate President Trump, right? That's kind of where that comes in for me. That lack of context.
Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
I think one of the biggest things that bothers me is people that take things so personally. Like, if you disagree with someone and they say that something you've said is wrong, then they're calling you an idiot. And that does happen. There are people, unfortunately, who will say something, and if it's wrong, someone will basically call them stupid for it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people are not trying to make things personal and are just trying to say, oh, no, that's wrong. Here's what's right. And I try my best to accept all other opinions, and if I'm wrong and someone tells me it, I try my best to accept that and not take it personally. But it's very hard, and I'd like to see if we as society can stop taking things so personally, because if we can do that, we can separate ourselves from politics, and it'll be a lot easier to do things like vote.
Yeah. Oh, I will be right back. I'm just going to switch devices. Keep talking because this is awesome. I love it here.
Yeah, so how much time do we have left? Does anybody know?
About 15 minutes, I think.
Wow, it only took 5 minutes. Woo. So, yeah, that's very interesting. Honestly, let me think. Martin, do you have any suggestions about what we should talk about?
Want to talk about some of the other candidates, or just the system of electing people in general? Because it's about the election, so we could talk about the Electoral College and stuff like that.
The Electoral College sucks.
Pretty much. Great.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Maybe if anybody has a suggestion for Electoral College and censorship, and if anybody has a suggestion though that's watching this, type it definitely down and send it, because that would be cool. Yeah, Martin?
I think something that's funny is if Hillary Clinton had won by electoral college and people who are Donald Trump supporters like freaked out, it would be the same thing but in reverse that we have right now. It's very funny how similar both parties are, even if their viewpoints are so different. Like if that happened, that would be so interesting. Like if you could see both alternate timelines of in this universe Hillary won and in this universe Trump won, and both of them won because of electoral college, you'd probably have basically the same thing happening in both. And I think that's really interesting.
Oh yeah, the whole alternate universe deal definitely is something. Yeah. See, I like so the alternate universe idea is like the start of a giant fan fiction or something fun like that.
Quantum physics, yay.
Bro, I don't know if you knew this. Camille, want to turn on your webcam. It's off. I don't know if you're still working on something. Just letting you know. But so yeah, we got about 5 minutes left.
Alternative facts, anyone?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about? Well, I guess we'll talk about people say the system is broken. Why should I even vote? Does anybody here share viewpoints like I shouldn't even vote? What do you?
I find that very interesting because on the one side is it's broken. My vote can possibly not do anything because there's the electoral college. So why does it even matter? Why do I need to vote if my opinion isn't even taken in? Like that is, I completely can see that. And then there's the other side that what if it is? What if it, in the rare event that your vote does matter and you didn't vote, that could be bad that could be your fault. So I can see both of them, but I kind of lean towards this one because it makes the system is very broken.
What's this one? What's this one? Sorry.
The system's very broken, and it is kind of pointless to vote.
Yeah, I definitely see that, but here's the thing where I kind of land. It's I definitely understand the point. Like, why even vote? Why even bother? Well, here's the thing. Even if it's not just voting, the system has changed before. I think it can't change again. Maybe a lot of this isn't mainly from voting. It's from people talking and information being, communicated with as I said before, which is easier than ever now because we're in the information age. But the thing is that even though we have so many people here, I don't think even though your vote technically means much less than it would in a smaller environment, I would still vote because if you don't vote and people don't vote and a bunch of people don't vote, well then the candidate that you might not want or the candidate that you might want doesn't win or wins. And the thing is that it's kind of like herd immunity. And again, I'm not saying definitely. I'm not like disputing the fact that your vote is it doesn't count that much. But it's like herd immunity, right? Compromise herd immunity. I don't know if people know about this, but like immune to diseases. I don't know how it works. If you wash hands, like you're compromising herd immunity if you don't. Because when a large group of people are trying to stay clean, the herd stays. I mean, I washed down there. I'm probably saying it wrong, but that's the same thing. Your vote it doesn't matter that much. But all together, all those other people, that I think matters. And you voting, because one little vote maybe not matter in the grand scheme of things, where when it actually comes to choosing the candidate. But I think it does matter when with other people voting and showing Americans coming together. And let's say that there are a bunch of supporters for this candidate and there are like this many supporters for this candidate. But these supporters, maybe not supporters, but these people who prefer this candidate didn't vote. And then this candidate wins. That's my viewpoint. It isn't much trouble to vote. But yeah, Martin, if you want to refute my points or do anything else.
I feel like don't vote if you don't want to vote. Vote if you want to vote. But if you didn't vote and you had the ability to, don't get mad if the candidate you wanted to win didn't win, because that you can't do both. If you didn't vote for the person you wanted and they don't win, and you get mad, that's not cool. But
yeah, it doesn't make much sense. Then it's like, well,
yeah, you're a hypocrite.
Right.
But if you didn't vote and you don't care who wins, there's nothing wrong with that. Or if you did kind of care who wins, but you're not that upset about it, there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of what makes the voting system kind of cool, is that you don't have to vote if you don't want to.
Right. There's still a little bit of choice in there with all the forced things and all the, covertly put into your mind. There's that little choice. That's definitely.
Yeah. So I think it's also an inspirational thing. Like, maybe not to most people, but it really inspires me seeing people get out there and vote. It makes me want to vote. Again, I think that, children should be able to vote because a lot of children know a lot better than adults when it comes to voting here. I know a lot of children that know much more than adults.
Because they're going to be the ones that are affected for the longer term in the long run. The adults are the adults now. We're still growing up with this dude.
I don't know who it was from, but somebody had a viewpoint where they said kids should be able to vote, or young people should be able to vote, and their vote should count like twice as much as very old people.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea.
And I mean, I don't know if I agree with that or not, because it's technically age discrimination, but I definitely see that viewpoint, because the younger people are the ones who inherit it. You're basically setting up, like, I'm sure it'll be fine for you. So I see that viewpoint. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with it, but that's definitely interesting. But yeah, if you didn't vote, if you voted, if you didn't vote because you just didn't care, or if you didn't vote and that was your vote, good job being an American. I salute you. Yeah, or if you elected somewhere else in the world, good for you. Good for you. You're a true insert country name here. All right. Anything else? We got like 1 minute left.
I think that's probably good. We could probably wrap it up now.
So
I'm gonna do the outro. Ooh, sorry.
So I guess we're all so happy that you decided to tune in and to this exchange of information and watch this, and be sure to tune in next time. I think there'll be next time.
And check out other stuff on the Conscious Consumer Network. It's great.
Yeah, check out other stuff there, like probably any show, because all of it's great.
And absolutely feel free to, well, for me anyway, feel free to, if you see me anywhere somehow, contact me about any of the things that I've said, ask questions, debate. I'm always down for a debate. Anything, right?
Yeah, anything.
Yep. This has been For the Love of Learning. Or wait, this is Youth on Subjects of the World. This has been for Youth on Subjects of the World. Thank you.
Tisk.
I'm used to it.
If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Mainstream media exists for the purposes of indoctrination and manipulation of public perception. The world of free and independent media is growing, and with the upsurge in information now available in the public domain, it has never been easier to access free and independent media. The exploration of this information resulted in an experimental project which would provide a fully supported space for researchers, whistleblowers, and seekers of all kinds to express themselves and educate the world. On the 1st of January 2015, Conscious Consumer Network was launched to the world. Nobody thought we would make it this far, but CCN is the longest running free and independent media network of its kind. CCN is a unique collaboration of hearts and souls, bringing you information from different perspectives to educate and inform. Since we started CCN, we have had only one desire: the pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world, and this has not changed. Having overcome many challenges over the last 2 years, CCN is here to stay, and we've got great things lined up for 2017. Help keep CCN on the air by supporting the 2017 Network Support Fund.